This is the Triad Real Estate Collaborators Podcast, brought to you by First American Home Warranty and Ashley Williams, Brittany Cook with Movement Mortgage, Tyler Castle with Steele and Vaughn Moving, Drew Brandon with Home Team Inspection Service, and Sean, Lori, and Brian with Stegall and Clifford Attorneys at Law.
All right, so we're here with Amanda Shore with Real Realty. That's hard to say.
Real Broker.
Real Broker. That's why they changed it. And
Yes.
so you don't
Real
Marble
Broker
Mouth.
LLC is the North Carolina name.
Yeah, we
Yes.
don't like Marble Mouth, and that's that comes out of me quite sometimes. So Ashley Williams with First American Home Warranty is also here with us today. So let's dive right in. So you've been an agent for how long?
22 years.
22 years.
Yes.
So you've seen a thing or two.
Yes.
We were just talking about 2008, 2009 being some of your best years.
Some of my best years.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And-
I didn't know any different. I just went out and just
Right.
did what I'd always done.
Right.
So
So what has changed in your mindset? I know you've made some changes in swapping and brokerages and running your own team to joining a team, which I want to get into as well. But I think there's a lot of people that haven't experienced the market that we're in right now. So what do you see as the changes that you're encountering on a day-to-day basis? Does it remind you of 2008, 2009, completely different? What are you seeing?
So, the market, I don't think the market so much has changed as the consumer has changed. Consumers, they expect immediate gratification. They expect quick turnaround. And the basics of the business, which are communication and loving on your people, haven't changed. It's just we have definitely had to adapt how we go about doing those things and put systems in place so that immediate gratification can be accomplished. And it doesn't necessarily mean answer the phone 24/7, because goodness knows Amanda does not do that.
You can't do that.
I do not do that. I have very firm rules around that. But the folks with whom I work, they know those expectations going into it. They know what standards I have around that going into it. And as long as they're okay with that, great. If they're not, then I may not be the person for them, and that's okay. So that's been a big mindset shift for me is you can't lose a client. You can't lose a customer or a client. But if I'm not right for them and they're not right for me, it's not serving anyone. And so going back to the instant gratification, it may just be hey, got your message. I'll check in with you in the morning. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
But that's a big change that I've seen, which for younger people, and I'm not trying to age myself, but for younger people, that's not as big a deal because that's how they're used to the world.
That's how they've
Right.
grown
But
up.
for those of us that have been around a while and are used to setting up, formal buyer consultations and that kind of thing, it's definitely a switch that's had to be flipped.
Yeah, it's funny, but we say about the consumer because I've noticed that about myself, right? Like I set very specific boundaries on when people can contact me and can't. But when I reach out to people in the middle of the day, I'm like, why has it been an hour and you haven't responded to me, right? Like this is very simple. Just be like, hey, got it. I'll text you back in a second, right?
Right.
Like communication's so key. So when you talk about that instant gratification, you went from running your own team, right? You had agents under you. You were, the dog and going and getting everything and funneling it through to now you've joined a team. What has that transition been like for you? Because that's hard for me. Like I've owned my own business for 10 years and then to go work underneath a different umbrella where you have to conform to their rules and their systems and lose some control over that can be tough. But is that some of the reason you switched was because of that instant gratification?
So when I changed brokerages, I changed as an individual. My business partner and I had been together for 13 or 14 years, and if she's listening, she'll correct me. But and we have a fabulous relationship. She is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. But we both had seen how the team structure that we had wasn't necessarily benefiting us and our families as much as it had in the past. And so when I changed brokerages, I came on my own. I was loving life as an individual agent because not having, with the model of my current brokerage, you really do pour into the folks that you bring in. The better they do, the better you do, that kind of thing. And so I still felt like I love mentoring and I love training and educating. And so I still felt like I was meeting those needs as far as needing to to help others and help new agents specifically not make the same mistakes I made. But without having my own team, there was so much less responsibility and so much
freeing.
less expense.
Oh gosh.
And
that's
I mean, it was just, it was wow. And so what happened, it's kind of a funny story. I was talking to an indie brokerage here in Winston, and I was trying to get them to make the switch to Real, and I couldn't make it happen. Like, I couldn't make it happen. And so I went on to the workplace chat that we have, and I said, hey, has anybody successfully brought an indie brokerage on, and what does that look like? And this guy said, hey, I'm on a team and we've just done that. Why don't you get on this Q&A just to hear about how we talk, you know, what language we use and what points we make and that kind of thing, because everybody's pain point is different. So I was like, great. So I got on this Q&A, totally said from the beginning, I am absolutely not interested in being on a team. I had my own team for 13 years. Well, by the end of this Q&A, I was like, wow, holy snackers. Because, I mean, the compensation model, the amount of support you get, it was so much more than anything that I had ever received at any other brokerage, as well as having my own team and even as an individual agent. And so, yeah, it was a little bit of a pride thing. I had to swallow my pride a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, I said, Shore Team's great, but Amanda Shore with Premier Group with Real Broker is even better, because I'm going to have so much more money in my pocket. And let's face it, a lot of it does come down to that, but also tools and technology and support. I'm going to be able to mentor. I'm going to be able to lead. I am a team leader for our region. And so I'm still able to do all the things that I love to do, but so much of that expense and overhead and, you know, things like that, they don't fall on me.
Yeah.
And it's fabulous.
Well, especially with family too, right? I mean, you have 3 kids and
3 kids.
2 teenagers that are running you guys ragged because they don't have their license yet, right?
One has his
One?
permit.
Okay. All right.
So I'm in
We're
the same
coming up
boat.
on that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm actually looking forward to him getting his license.
You should be.
Because he can run his sister to dance and stuff. I'm really
gosh.
excited about that.
Well, and my parents were the same way. They were like, we want you to get your license like on my birthday. They were like, you're not even going to go to school until you get your license. And I was like, well, of course I'm not going to go to school. It's like, why would I want to go to school? But that was some of the reasons. Like, they were spending so much of their time driving me around that they were like, you have to get your license because our sanity is going to be better with you driving. Right.
The hardest part is that I've been driving his truck. We wanted him to learn to drive with what he would be driving, and I've kind of fallen in love with the truck. So we're trying to figure out how we can maybe change the expectation of what he will be driving when he turns 16. But anyway,
Yeah.
it'll be all right. Then it'll be time to get my daughter something, because they're only 13 months apart.
Yeah. That's,
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I'm in the same boat. My son's 15. The twin girls are 13. But I'm having a hard time getting him into driver's ed. It's just such a wait list.
interesting.
Yeah.
I think since my husband is in the schools, we had a little bit of an inside connection on that, because
Yeah.
I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
But we just kind of scooted right in there. Plus, he's late, so he won't be 16 till May of his sophomore year. And
Yeah.
so he was in kind of a different bracket than a lot
Yeah.
of his friends.
Yeah.
So,
I got you. Good.
Anyway.
So you also have a little different perspective on life, and talking about, you've written a book, which is amazing.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No. Tell me.
So she's written a book, which it's on ADHD and adult ADHD and
Oh,
functioning in
goodness.
that
Maybe I
world.
need to read
So
that.
like the joke question that I have is like, how long did that take you to write it, knowing that you're constantly getting squirreled in a different direction?
So it's kind of, I don't call it a book, actually. It's just like a collection. I've always been I write. That's kind of therapy for me. And so I've always been a journaler. When Facebook came around, I'll write things that are like this long. And if you don't want to read them, don't read them, whatever. But it helps me get stuff out. So really it was more of a just organizing the thoughts and the things that I had already written when I got my ADHD diagnosis. But I had always, since a small child, said that I wanted to write a book, publish a book,
Wow,
et
that's
cetera.
amazing.
And then when I got the diagnosis, it was typical ADHD fashion. Okay, I'm just going to do it. And I just did it. And I did hire initially a ghostwriter to help me put things together and organize and that kind of thing, since that's not a strong suit. But they were changing my words and my
Yeah.
tone, and I didn't want it to be changed. I wanted it to be my voice and my nuances and linguistics, and that kind of thing. And so calling it a book is it is a book in that it has like a front, back, and a spine, but it's really more just a collection. And
I would love to read it.
okay.
How do you
Have
get
at
that
it,
published,
sister.
though? I mean, what's the process of that?
So the ghostwriter that I initially hired was going to do the publishing, and in typical ADHD fashion, when I got frustrated with them, I just took it back and self-published myself.
Oh,
period.
cool.
So anybody can do it, and I've actually published another one that's just like a little journal on infertility and miscarriage. So many women, especially, have gone through life never feeling like, knowing that they could do so much and knowing that they could accomplish so much, but never quite being able to get there. And for a lot of us, it's undiagnosed ADHD, and mine is diagnosed. I mean, mine is the real deal. But I just see there's a whole generation of us that it wasn't thought of for little girls.
Yeah.
yeah.
We
There's always
didn't-
hyperactive boys.
We
right?
didn't climb the walls.
There's always
We
boys.
could sit still in our seats. We were driven and hyper focused, and if we brought home anything other than an A+, it was the end of the world because we were so hard on ourselves. That kind of thing, and that is a form of ADHD. And now I'm not saying everybody. We all have a little touch of it. Like all three of
Sure.
my kids have a touch.
Yeah.
A couple of them definitely have full blown, but I
son has
felt the need to, I think through real estate and just being kind of a vocal person anyway about everything, I just felt the need to just put some stuff out there because it's kind of a hot button now. But when I first started it 3 and 4 and 5 years ago, it wasn't talked about very much. And I just said, people need to hear this stuff. And every time that I would put something on Facebook, I would, of course, immediately think, oh my gosh, Amanda, you need to take that down. That's too much information. But then I would go to my messages and I would have women specifically writing me and saying, thank you. You just put into words exactly how I've been feeling. And so I just did it.
That's
Do
great.
Do you think that the diagnosis, it's okay if there's some background noise. The diagnosis, and I guess not the diagnosis, but it's the way your brain works, right? And it's been that way
biology.
since you were, it's biology, right? Do you think the way that your brain works has helped facilitate a successful real estate career?
100%. We have to adapt and be flexible and be able to manage 10, 12, 15 transactions at a time. I can remember years ago, my mama was my first assistant, and she's a high school English teacher. And she is very methodical, very organized, detail oriented. And she would come and sit with me in my office for a day and be like, I don't know how you do it. How you jump from this buyer to this seller to this conversation to this repair negotiation back to this buyer back to this seller. And I have no doubt that is in huge part due to my ADHD.
The organized chaos.
Totally,
The-
yeah.
The piles, you know exactly what's there. And
Yeah,
And I
with
think
hyper focus when you need it too.
When
right?
I need, when
Yeah.
I need it, I can go in and I can get 3 days worth of work done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks fall out of the industry because that is such a challenge for
Yeah.
them.
Oh,
they
yeah.
they can't handle the spontaneity and the lack of control. Now there are things
so much going on at once.
so much,
Yeah.
so much going on at once, and flipping a switch from breaking horrible news to someone to 10 minutes later celebrating one of the greatest days of their lives, and being able to adapt to the situation and read the room, it's critical.
Yes,
it's
it
critical.
is. Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks struggle with. I am very structured in my day and how my day go. I attempt to be structured, understanding that there always has to be some kind of flexibility. But I think for so many folks, especially those leaving at a 9 to 5 or whatever, that's a big part of why they just can't make it and they don't have the longevity. The folks that I see coming from other industries that are the most successful are education and medical. And when you are a teacher and when you're in the medical field, you're used to 18 different things coming at you at once.
Emergencies.
And that carries over well into the real estate industry.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Amanda, appreciate you joining us. It was a lot
Thank
of
you.
fun.
Thank you.
Ashley is definitely going to be reading your book.
Oh, I'm so excited. I had no idea. Well, I'm getting like, I've talked to people and I'm hearing things. I'm like, gosh, that kind of sounds like me. So yeah.
The spontaneity and the hyper focus aspect fits me to a T,
Yeah.
right? I'm not hyper.
Yeah,
But-
I'm not hyper, but I
Depending
have
on who
those
you ask, I guess.
Well, and
My
that's
wife might
just
say I'm hyper,
tendencies.
but
That's one gift of my, and I know we're wrapping up, but that's one gift of my diagnosis is the things that I had always doubted in myself and questioned in myself, like, why can't I do this? Why can't I sit down and do this like other people? Now I realize this is how God made me.
Yeah.
And God made me this way for a reason, and embrace it and understand that not everything is going to be your cup of tea, but the things that you can do really well
Yeah.
because it was given by God, and
How-
I just have to go with it.
how much of that has, because this is just curiosity for me, because my kids are just entering the school system, right? And so structure, sit down, all that stuff. And we're not going to talk about school because I've got lots of opinions on that. But how much has that diagnosis changed the way that you raise your kids?
I love that.
I mean, it's got to be huge, right?
Like crazy. I
Yeah.
am so much more. So my two oldest they are very compliant. They are eager to please and want to do the right thing and, stay in their lanes. One of them in particular, though, I'm giving away which one it is, but she struggles with multi-step directions, and things like that. And now I recognize it isn't just that she or we are hot messes. It's how her brain is wired.
Right. Yeah.
And so I can't say, do this and then this and then this. I say, okay, do this. And then when that's accomplished, okay, do this.
Yeah.
Written instructions, give a whole lot more grace than I
Yeah.
used to. Now with my youngest one, he is poster child, ADHD. And I could not have handled that without this diagnosis in myself. I'm a whole different parent. Now he doesn't probably. He gets away with 10 times more than the two oldest
Sure.
did. But I'm so much more understanding with him and with them that I probably give too much grace. Often, I think my husband sometimes is like, "Oh my gosh," because he's as not ADHD as
Right,
they come.
right.
But I'm like, babe, this is how she's wired. We got frustrated the other day with my daughter because we told her to put something in the freezer. Well, she went and she opened the freezer and then she saw something she wanted in the freezer, and so she got it out and cooked it. And the thing that she took to the freezer sat on the counter. And I said, babe, she went to the freezer. She went to the freezer. She did, and when I or she goes to a drawer to pull something out, we pull it out and then we turn around and walk away. We don't
Yeah.
close the
Yeah.
drawer because we've done what we went to the drawer to do, and sometimes that gets on his nerves a little bit. But
Yeah, I
The
get
amount
it.
of trash bags that I leave at the front door, which for good intentions is going outside, but
Yeah, I
get
do
left
that
at
too.
the front door all the
But
time.
I'll come into the kitchen and every single cabinet's open, and that was me.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the title of your book? How do people find it?
It's ADHD Chronicles, 47 Years of Extra Explained, and it is on Amazon.
I love that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a
Okay,
great title.
I'll look it up.
All right. Amanda Shore, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much.